What's your damn I'm a badass moment? Chucked a piece of cardboard at a recycling bin at work. It was about 30 feet from me. A draft caught it and took it 40 feet up, and it did a double loop before slamming directly into the bin. One old lady saw and went wow. Felt like a fucking champion all day. All day bro, I'd ride that high for the rest of my life. Didn't think how cool/good it was at the moment, but when I was like 5 or 6 a woman covered in blood crawled to my childhood house door and started banging on it. I woke up from the noise and went to open it. When I opened it, I just saw her in cuts, scratches, bruises, etc. Apparently her boyfriend was trying to actually kill her and she managed to escape. She asked to be let in for safety and I let her in and went to go wake up my mom. When she came out she was shocked to see her and went to clean her wounds a bit and later called the police and ambulance. I didn't fix her wounds or anything, but I'd like to think that I saved her life that day. I have a few moments that make me feel good about myself, but I'm going to talk about this because it happened when I was like 22, and it was one of my first I'm an adult and I'm not half bad at it moments. Was driving back really late after hanging with some friends, like 2 in the morning. It's raining really hard and the roads are dangerously slick. Some guy, well he less turns than slides onto the road ahead of me, going up this massive hill with a steep grade, and he isn't controlling his car well. I see him fishtail a couple times but barely regain control, so I back way off and slow down. Not sure if he's drunk or it's just the rain, but I think to myself he's gonna lose it, and sure enough when I round the next corner, there he is in the deep ditch. He is gunning the wheels and spewing mud and grass everywhere, but obviously can't get out like that, and I'm sure his adrenaline is wrecking any chance at slow rational thought because he just went over a tiny cliff. I pull over, get out in the rain waving my arms to get him to stop, tell him what to do, go as slow as possible, angle the wheels the right way, but I notice his hand shaking and end up asking him to get out. I manage to get his car out of the ditch, but when I get out to give him back his keys I see his whole body is visibly shaking from the shock, so I offer to give him a hug. We hug for what felt like 10 minutes and he starts crying. It was probably only a minute. He isn't drunk, or it wasn't apparent, but he's clearly not okay to drive, so when I thought he'd let most of it out I asked where he lives, just up the road a little ways. I check that his car is okay to drive for a bit. I tell him to get in and drive him to his place, see him inside and tell him to not drive until the next day and get his undercarriage checked. Walked back to my car in the rain and went home. This isn't my I'm a badass story, but it's my first person on the scene of a car accident story. When I walked up to the wreck I had the exact same thoughts as you. I'm about to see a headless person or guts hanging out or a ton of blood. I opened the driver door and the way I was facing and the van was oriented I could only see the windshield before I leaned in around the door. I saw blood and guts all over the windshield. Holy fuck. I see that it's a van full of old folks, 2 of them in power scooter type things in the back. Everyone looks alive and conscious. Also, a few of them were holding burritos. That's when I finally realized the blood and guts all over the dashboard and windshield was actually burrito stuff and sauce. Everyone was fine. They had just stopped at Taco Bell before the wreck. The only casualties were 3 of their burritos LOL. F. RIP burritos. Back in the day, I trained a few years in judo. A few regional tournaments convinced me that I am a fairly mediocre martial artist. 10 years later a big, athletic guy, outweighed me by probably 80 pounds, took a swing at me outside of a bar, and I threw him with a massive shoulder throw with basically zero effort or thought. I started to lock his elbow on the ground, but realized he was mostly knocked out, so I just stood up. I left as quickly as I could, but I saw like a dozen guys with open mouths saying things like, "Did you see that shit?" I pulled over to throw up on the way home. Edit, a few years later, I related the story to a friend who works in military special operations, including the embarrassing part where I barfed. He said something that I've never forgotten, "That's not a big deal man, a lot of guys get sick before every big mission." Badass motherfuckers are guys who do badass things. Sometimes, you are terrified, and you push through it to do badass things anyway. I am in no way, shape, or form anything resembling a badass. But I like my friend's definition of courage. Who cares if you are the cool guy in the movies who walks away from explosions? What matters is if you pulled the girl out of the car before it blew up. Doing what is necessary even if you are scared, especially when done for the benefit of other people, is the real definition of badassery.